Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down William Golding's masterpiece to see, well, exactly how fast human civilization can just completely collapse the second you take adults out of the equation. Let's jump right in. So, fun fact about this classic, it was actually rejected by 21 different publishers before it finally made it to print. Crazy, right? And listen, if you think this is just some simple story about boys surviving on a deserted island, you're kind of missing the bigger picture here. What we're actually looking at is a gripping psychological thriller about the absolute fragility of society. It's basically a laboratory experiment in human nature, and honestly, the results are terrifying. Just look at how fast things degrade across these early chapters. I mean, the stakes are set immediately. We go from a fresh crash landing on day one straight into a completely disastrous, uncontrollable fire that very same evening. And then, just days later, we hit painted faces, tribal savagery, and a totally missed rescue. It's the sheer speed of this collapse that we really want to unpack here. We're going to map out the exact steps of this collapse today, starting with the illusion of order, then the first uncontrollable fire, shelters versus savagery, hiding behind the mask, and finally, the extinguished signal fire. So, part one, the illusion of order. Right at the beginning, Piggy and Ralph spot this cream and pink conch shell sitting in the lagoon. When Ralph blows into it, it lets out this deep, harsh boom that just echoes right across the island. This shell becomes our very first symbolic anchor. It literally calls all these scattered, totally terrified boys out of the jungle and brings them together. The rule is simple. Whoever holds the conch holds the right to speak. It's essentially democracy, manifested into a single physical object. So, what do they do once they're all gathered? Well, they immediately default to the schoolyard roles they know best. They hold a vote. They end up electing the charismatic, fair-haired Ralph as their chief. Honestly, mostly just because he's the guy holding that trumpet-like shell. But you can feel the tension right away. Jack Merridew shows up, literally marching a choir of boys in these heavy black cloaks under a sweltering sun, and he fully expects to be the leader. To keep the peace, Ralph makes a brilliant, though incredibly dangerous move. He gives Jack control of the choir, officially naming them the island's hunters. They even set up ground rules like putting your hand up and waiting for the conch before you speak. At this point, everything feels totally civilized. But just listen to Jock's rationale here. He is actively championing the rules, proudly declaring that they aren't savages because they're English. It is such a fascinating, almost painful moment of dramatic irony. Because, Jack is utterly oblivious to the dark reality of his own impending descent. He's about to dive headfirst into the exact savagery he's dismissing right now. Moving on to part two, the first uncontrollable fire. The real turning point happens during an assembly. This tiny little kid, who has a mulberry-colored birthmark on one side of his face, gets pushed to the front of the group. He is absolutely terrified. With Piggy acting as a sort of translator, the boy tells everyone about a snake thing, a beastie that he saw out in the woods in the dark. Now, Ralph tries to use logic to brush this off, insisting that large beasts only live in massive countries like Africa or India. But the damage is done. This little boy has successfully planted a terrifying, completely irrational seed of primal fear. Suddenly, they all feel like something is out there lurking in the jungle. To combat that creeping fear and get everyone focused back on rescue, Ralph suggests building a signal fire. Great idea, right? Well, driven by sudden panic and this crazy mob mentality, the boys wildly rush up the mountain without a single shred of a plan. They literally snatch Piggy's thick glasses right off his face to use the lenses to start the spark. Then they recklessly pile up an enormous, incredibly unstable bonfire out of decayed wood, and of course, it erupts. The fire instantly escapes up into the forest canopy, spreading like a jaguar creeping on its belly. It turns into this terrifying, roaring drumroll of destructive, savage flame. So now they're all just staring at a quarter mile of burning island. Piggy, in tears, scolds them for acting like a pack of kids, pointing out that they don't even know how many little ones are actually in their group. And then he asks this chilling question. That little one that had a mark on his face, where is he now? The boys go dead silent. It forces this horrifying realization to wash over them. The little boy with the birthmark? He's been consumed by their very first uncontrollable fire. Mere negligence has already claimed a life on day one. That brings us to part three, shelters versus savagery. So the crucial takeaway here is this deep, widening contrast between Ralph's worldview and Jack's. You've got Ralph, who is just utterly exhausted, desperately trying to build these shaky huts on the beach to protect everyone from the rain and, the imagined beast. And the only person helping him is a boy named Simon. Meanwhile, what is Jack doing? He's crawling through the thick jungle on all fours, almost like a furtive, ape-like thing. He's out there tracking pig droppings, totally consumed by this maddening, obsessive compulsion to track and kill. He's completely abandoning the signal fire, and he's completely ignoring the shelters. So when they finally bump into each other on the beach, they clash. Ralph just shouts this at Jack, utterly bewildered. And this visceral confrontation perfectly captures the core tension we're looking at in this explainer. It's the ultimate struggle between doing the difficult, totally unglamorous work of maintaining civilization versus just surrendering to immediate primal gratification. They are literally looking at each other across two totally different continents of experience, entirely unable to communicate anymore.
Part 4. Hiding behind the mast.
To really understand how they finally break the rules, we have to look at the painted mask. See, Jack realizes that if he wants to get close enough to a pig, he needs camouflage. So he smears his face with red clay, white clay, and this sharp slash of black charcoal. And when he peers down at his reflection in a pool of water, he doesn't see a choir boy anymore. He sees this awesome, terrifying stranger. This mask becomes a chilling symbol that completely transforms him. It liberates him from shame, from self-consciousness, from all that lifelong conditioning of parents and school and policemen. Behind that mask, Jack is finally free to be completely ruthless. Empowered and safely hidden by this new face, Jack and his hunters completely abandon their post at the signal fire. They finally manage to surround and slaughter a pig. Then they march all the way back to the mountain in this twisted, bloody procession, carrying the gutted carcass swinging on a stake. And they're chanting this absolutely haunting mantra: kill the pig, cut her throat, spill her blood. The taboo of their old civilized life, it is completely gone. Watching them revel in all this blood and violence, literally dancing and laughing as they recount slitting a living creature's throat, we're kind of left wondering if there's any humanity left to even save on this island. I mean, are these really still the same prim and proper English schoolboys we met in Chapter 1? Which brings us to our final part, the extinguished signal fire. So while Jack is off hunting, Ralph happens to be down on the beach, and he spots it. Way out there, a tight little knot of smoke on the horizon, a ship's funnel. It's their ultimate salvation. But when Ralph looks desperately up to the mountaintop where their signal fire is supposed to be burning, he realizes with absolute horror that it is completely dead. Jack had actually pulled all the fire watchers away just so he could form his hunting circle. Ralph just sprints. He runs blindly through the rasping creepers, tearing up the steep mountain, his voice rising insanely. In a moment of absolute, heart-wrenching agony, he runs along the pink cliff, screaming at the empty horizon. "Come back! Come back!" But it's totally useless. The horizon just stretches out, impersonal and empty. Their one golden chance at salvation simply sails right away into the distance. And then, right on cue, the hunters arrive. Jack is covered in clay and blood, practically vibrating with the triumph of his big kill. But Ralph, he doesn't care about the meat. He just points his arm accusingly out at the empty ocean and delivers this crushing blow. You let the fire go out. Jack's big, triumphant moment of outwitting a living creature has directly cost every single one of them their rescue. And in this exact moment, the societal bond between the boys is permanently shattered. It splits the island irrevocably, right down the middle, between the fragile hope of order and the dark, intoxicating pull of savagery. As we watch these boys stare across the cold ashes of their dead fire, this explainer really leaves us with an incredibly uncomfortable question to ponder. We just saw exactly how fast the conch was replaced by the painted mask. So ask yourself, how long would the thin veneer of your own society's rules actually last if there was simply no one left watching? Thanks for joining me today, and keep questioning the world around you.